Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the No Conference. It's an honor indeed to be asked to say the opening prayer for this conference. I was given some tobacco early in the school year by the Indigenous Youth Centre, and because of COVID, passing tobacco along is not possible. So I have that tobacco in my hand, and I've been using it for all of Sask Polytech programming. So I'll be using that today for my prayer. And I just want to, wish everybody a good day today, and hope the conference goes well. Natawinan, Yukochintano Manasota Bevitapumia, Bevitapina, Negovici Ogotagama Optic, Uniganiwak, Vici Quest Montanachigan Capacitachi, the Guminago Sky Gotagak Sama Oxygen, Egunitino Vici Hick Quest Restock, Cocoichi Mochi by his spin one stotamak. Visama por kiboy sama kawi. So mina katio I seen wakoma wichi hika bewachuma ka aksiako I seen wak. The what I may be quite time. I help. Lina Skumkin. I thank you all.
Good morning, and thank you, Elder, for that prayer. That was very nice and really fitting for a great way to start our day. Tawau hau anin tanshi atlanate. I'm Dr. Larry Rosia, President and CEO of Saskatchewan Polytechnic, and I'm honored to acknowledge that the campuses of Saskatchewan Polytechnic are located on Treaty 4 and Treaty 6 territories, which are the ancestral lands of the Cree, the Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota peoples, and the traditional homeland of the Métis. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to Saskatchewan Polytechnic's inaugural first ever No Conference presented by our outstanding partner, Graham Group. Today, you'll gain inspiration and career success guidance from our guest speakers, our keynote, and you'll come away with the practical skills and knowledge in a number of key areas tied to employability and to career success. Best of all, this conference gives you the opportunity to practice your networking skills and offers you a chance to interact with business and industry representatives, including many of Saskatchewan Polytechnic alumni. I encourage you to listen, learn, and check out the 21st Century Skills Workshop series powered by RBC Future Launch. I hope your learning journey and all this great conference has to offer leads you to meet and exceed your career ambitions. Enjoy a great conference and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
On behalf of Graham, I want to thank Sask Polytech for the opportunity to sponsor the 2021 No Conference. And I want to welcome the students and thank the members of industry for supporting this event. Graham is an employee-owned construction company with annual revenues exceeding $2 billion. We have over 9 decades of experience, starting with our roots in Saskatchewan. We provide general contracting, design build, major project delivery, construction management, P3 construction, and even finance. We have over 1,600 professional staff. We have a lot of Sask Poly graduates throughout our organization. As one of Canada's largest construction companies, Graham has resource and capacity to undertake projects of every size and scale. Graham admires Sask Polytech's progressive approach to delivering programs, balanced with applied learning skills and the students' solid track record of delivering graduates to all the sectors it serves. We know that Sask Poly has a commitment to diversity that sets it apart from other organizations. And we believe that the strong connections of students and employers of Sask Poly positions it uniquely to grow. Graham understands how important the graduates are to the province of Saskatchewan and to the provincial economy. Graham also understands how the graduates can impact other regions and even on a national scale. So we want to encourage the students to enjoy their career conversations with the industry members attending today. And we wish you all the best, and we hope you enjoy the conference.
Hey there, everybody. My name is Jesse White. I am the president of the Saskatchewan Polytechnic Students Association, as well as a Bachelor of Applied Management degree program student. I am incredibly honored to be able to introduce to you the 2021 No Conference keynote speaker. Hamza Khan is a multi-award-winning marketer, best-selling author, and global keynote speaker whose TEDx talk, Stop Managing, Start Leading, has been viewed over 1 million times. Khan is a global thought leader who has spoken to hundreds of audiences across many industries in numerous countries. His clients have included some of the world's most dynamic companies and organizations, including PepsiCo, LinkedIn, Deloitte, PwC, Trivago, and over 100 colleges, now including Saskatchewan Polytechnic. His insights have been featured by notable media outlets such as Vice, Business Insider, and the Globe and Mail. He is also the author of Amazon bestseller The Burnout Gamble, Achieve More by Beating Burnout and Building Resilience. Khan also works alongside young people and new talent as Managing Director of Student Life Network, Canada's largest and most comprehensive education resource platform. He is also the co-founder of Splash Effect, a boutique marketing and creative agency, as well as Skills Camp, a soft skill training company. As an educator, he is currently an instructor at both Seneca College and Ryerson University, teaching courses in digital marketing and social media. Everybody, please bring a warm Saskatchewan Polytechnic welcome to Hamza Khan.
Saskatchewan Polytechnic, hello and welcome. This is The Great Journey, discovering resilience and leadership through difficult change. Once again, my name is Hamza Khan, and it is my absolute pleasure to take you on this journey with us. From Spotify to the World Youth Forum, from the Canadian Armed Forces to TikTok, I'm trusted by forward-thinking organizations, as you just heard from Jesse, of all shapes and sizes to help their people thrive in the future of work. And it's an honor to be trusted by Sask Polytech to empower you, its students, and community at large. Okay, we're gonna make the next 45 minutes really simple. Just remember these numbers if you get lost at any point. 3, 9, and 3. One more time, 3, 9, and 3. That's 3 frameworks, 9 actions, and 3 steps. The ultimate goal of this talk is to empower you with the actionable insights to burn bright and not out, to sustain your productivity while adapting to and withstanding stress. Okay, let's do a quick tech test. I know that many of y'all are studying and working remotely. And so I gotta ask, hand to heart, are you wearing pajamas right now? Hand to heart, are you wearing pajamas right now? Head over to polev.com/HamzaKhan152 and let me know. That is polev.com/HamzaKhan152. Now rest assured knowing that this is a completely anonymous survey. Is the answer, well, absolutely, I'm wearing pajamas today. Is the answer, I took them off just before this conference, this session. Is the answer, I've got business on top and party on the bottom? Or is it, no, I actually dressed up today? Now, full disclosure, my sartorial selection during the pandemic has been, like many of you, sweatpants, hoodies, beanies, and socks. That is what my laundry basket looks like on any given week. But today I had the great privilege of dressing up for y'all. I threw on a blazer, I threw on a shirt, some nice pants, but I have no shoes. I'm in my home delivering this keynote to all of y'all. All right, look at that. Fantastic. So now that we got that out of the way, now that we know that the tech works, allow me to share a small confession. Doesn't usually happen, but on moments like this, I get a little nervous. I'm a little nervous for this talk. You see, because in my undergrad, I studied English Lit, and as a master's student at the moment, I'm studying communication and culture. My inner imposter, that nagging voice on the inside that tells me I'm not good enough, is telling me that I have no business speaking to future technicians, mechanics, hygienists, and hundreds of other skilled students and professionals who are all finding solutions to real-world problems. But if there's anything that my studies have taught me, if there's anything that I've learned in my research and through my experiences, it is a deep understanding and appreciation for the power of the metaphor. And that's something worth exploring deeply, especially right now in the middle of a global pandemic, at a time, a chaotic time, when people like yourself, like myself, are desperately searching for answers. Metaphors are figures of speech. They are units of human understanding. We use them to make sense of the world. And humans love journey metaphors in particular. They're one of the most common and effective figures of speech. They're designed to communicate about the process of change as well as to prepare us to undergo change. And a big reason why they're so effective has to do with the human condition. We're explorers, we're wanderers, we're adventurers who've never stopped traveling no matter the distance. We've been to the highest of mountains to the lowest of valleys, both literally and figuratively. And when you think about how Canada was discovered and explored, when you consider that Indigenous people roamed these great lands for tens of thousands of years, if not longer, you can start to understand why these metaphors continue to recur through time and across traditions. You've heard them your entire life. I mean, we've got crossroads, we've got ups and downs, obstacles along the way, new heights, what else? Rock bottom, smooth journey, bumpy roads. There are so many examples of journey metaphors. And this brings me to a really strange fork in the road, another journey metaphor. Here's a weird question for y'all. What do the following movies have in common? Moana, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, so part 1, Star Wars, The Force Awakens, and Avengers Endgame. What do all 4 of these movies have in common? Head back over to pollev.com/HamzaKhan152 and take your best guess. Is the answer that they have the exact same Rotten Tomatoes ratings? Is it that they made lots and lots of money at the box office? Is it that they share the same story, or is it that they're part of franchises which belong to the big Disney? So some answers are coming in. Many of y'all, it seems, think that they share the same story. That's interesting. Some of y'all think that they all belong to franchises which belong to Disney. A few of you think that they have the exact same Tomatoes ratings, and 20% of y'all, and counting, think that they made lots of money at the box office. I'm going to give you a couple more seconds to get in your answer, and then I will share what the answer really is. All right, so there you have it. Let's lock in those answers. If you answered that all 4 of these movies made boatloads of money, you're partially correct. This is true. I think combined they made over $6 billion, which is larger than the GDP of some countries, believe it or not. And they are the highest grossing movies of all time. They're amongst them. But like every highest grossing movie of all time, or forget about that, every movie ever made, they all have nearly identical storylines. This is the correct answer. All 4 of these movies have nearly identical storylines. Now, I can't see you, but if I did, I would imagine many of you are sitting back right now, raising your eyebrow, looking at me thinking, Hamza, what? Are you out of your mind? What are you talking about? I've watched all 4 of these movies. They're very different movies. Hear me out. Each of these stories involves a central character or several characters living in an ordinary world, relatively, and then being called and whisked away into action. In Moana, for instance, you've got a peaceful heir to the throne, the titular character Moana, who gets called to action by the ocean. In The Lord of the Rings, you've got a peaceful hobbit by the name of Frodo who gets called into action and whisked away by Gandalf. In The Force Awakens, you've got the scavenger Rey who was called to action by BB-8. You get what's happening here, right? And in Endgame, you've got a peaceful Tony Stark who is summoned by Ant-Man to don the Iron Man armor once again and set in motion the events that conclude the Avengers saga. But that's just the beginning, my friends. Here is your first of 3 frameworks. I would like to introduce to you now the hero's journey. Every single story you've come across in your life follows an identical structure, whether it was in a movie, a TV show, a video game, a book, no matter the format, all stories tend to be built along a 12-part arc. The hero lives in an ordinary world, part 1. Then they're called into adventure. Now, they initially refuse the call, part 3, but then a mentor finally convinces them to embark on the journey, that's 4. Then they cross over from the ordinary world into into the special world, into the world of chaos, uncertainty, volatility, complexity, and ambiguity. And there they meet with allies and enemies. They face various challenges. They approach the final stage of the journey only to experience failure. You're at stage 8 now. But this time, they experience resistance. And they leave with some insight. They don't quite solve the problem. They don't quite complete the journey. They experience temporary defeat, but they leave with some insight. Then they return, but this time there's a bigger and badder challenge. Except now at stage 11, the hero almost fails again, but this time they rely on their recently acquired insight, knowledge, skills, or expertise. And they finally overcome that challenge and return back to the ordinary world. So they complete a full journey, they return back to where they started, but now they're smarter, they're wiser, and they're ready to embark on another journey after that with much more experience and resilience. Trust me, now that you know this story structure, you're gonna see it in everything. You're gonna see it on whatever it is that you're binging on Netflix, on Disney Plus, on Prime Video, whatever book you're reading, whatever story, manga, novel you're reading. This is unseeable now. You're gonna see this all the time. Not unseeable is what I meant. Now, what is it about the hero's journey that's so popular? I mean, why haven't we gotten tired of this? If every story is comprised of the hero's journey, why haven't we gotten tired of this? Why have we been telling the same story in different ways since the dawn of communication? For starters, it speaks to something deep within the human condition. To cope with personal or collective chaos, we like to rehearse scenarios of restoring order, of going through the ordinary world into the extraordinary world and back again. These stories prepare us for future change. The story of moving from order to chaos back to order with a renewed perspective is a deeply human story. It's the story of our ancestors braving the chaos of nature, wars, floods, famine, plagues, darkness. It's our story. It's exams, it's social unrest, it's technological disruption, inequity, global warming, a global pandemic. To change as human, to pass through these things is what it means to be a human. And change at its core is about emerging from chaos with wisdom and perspective. It's about doing what it takes to return home to relative peace. Every villain in the movies that I'm talking about is a stand-in for chaos. Te-Fiti in Moana is the personification of chaos. Sauron from The Lord of the Rings is the personification of chaos. The First Order in the new Star Wars saga is the personification of chaos, and Thanos is the personification of chaos. So on and so forth. And chaos isn't evil per se. According to the root word from 14th century Greek vocabulary, chaos with K-H-A-O-S, as you see on your screen, is that which gapes wide open, that which is vast, that which is empty. The space between earth, proverbially, and heaven, proverbially. Where you are and where you want to go. Chaos is but disorder and confusion, that messy middle. It's that messy part of the change process. Now, here's the thing. Change, by definition, is stressful. And stress, if you're not careful, can lead to burnout. If you're not intentional about your own hero's journey, it's likely that you're going to get stuck somewhere in that story longer than you need to. It's getting harder and harder to be a hero, granted, to take these adventurous journeys. And you know what I'm talking about. Being a student is hard enough. Being a student in the pandemic is even harder. And being a student graduating potentially into a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous future, well, I get it. That can feel hopeless. I understand. I know this feeling all too well because as a student myself, I'm right there with you. But let me tell you a quick story that I hope can help us all make sense of what's happening and give us some ideas with regards to what to do next. So the tender young age of 17, there I was, and I had no idea what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. You know, my Indian immigrant father, God bless him, he wanted me to pursue one of 3 career paths. Now, if you are the child of immigrant parents, specifically from Southeast Asia, you know what I'm talking about. There's only 3 things that you can really do. And Dad, forgive me if you're watching this. I'm going to do a really bad impression of you, but he's like, Beta, Hamza, doctor, lawyer, engineer, right? Those are the 3 career paths that he wanted me to follow through on. And here I was, this dorky high school student playing Xbox, watching Dragon Ball Z, collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards with an affinity for the arts. After a heated argument with my father about my future, I did something pretty dramatic. We couldn't see eye to eye about what I was supposed to do next with my career, what I was supposed to do next with my life. And so I tried to buy myself some time in the strangest way possible. I joined the Canadian Armed Forces. I became a reservist. And as a young recruit in the forces, basic military qualification, BMQ, was everything that I thought it would be. And after several months, it got really comfortable. Day in and day out, we did soldier things, exercises, drills, activities, maintenance, sleep, repeat. Every day started to look the same. And for months, we just worked on basic skills, fitness, teamwork, navigation, survival, etc. I honed these skills and I became gradually more adept at being a soldier, but I wasn't quite a soldier yet. I hadn't been called to action. I hadn't been tested. And then one day, it happened. Towards the end of my basic training, my staff sergeant announced that our final exercise, the platoon's final exercise, the prelude to us becoming full-fledged soldiers, would be a comprehensive evaluation of everything we had learned so far, a culminating activity that would test all of our skills. We were going to be dropped via helicopter into a forest and would have 24 hours to navigate our way out. Just one day to figure out where in the province we were and how we were going to get out. And with just days to mentally prepare for this exercise, we were caught off guard when it actually happened. We nervously boarded the helicopter, we rappelled down, and there we were, a fire team of only 5 soldiers, only 5 soldier recruits with nothing but rations for a full day, flashlights, backpacks, sleeping bags, water bottles, a map, and a compass, and instructions to find our way out within a day. You can imagine that the shock of this event was quite jarring. We became immediately overwhelmed. Far from comfortable and familiar surroundings, stress got the best of us. Our inclination as human beings, after all, in the face of adversity, is to give up. I get it. When humans are faced with a stressful event, we experience what is known as the amygdala hijack. The amygdala is the part of our brain responsible for stress responses, such that when we're stressed, especially when the stress is unexpected and large, the amygdala, in effect, overrides and hijacks our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that we rely on for executive function, for complex planning, for creativity and decision-making. In other words, when we're stressed, we're not operating at our best. The amygdala gives us 3 options when we're contending with adversity: fight, fly, or freeze. And in the forest, my fire team completely froze. And it wasn't complacency. It was fear. It was panic. It was dread. And it manifested as us sitting around, arguing, fighting, and not making any progress. Over time, our situation worsened. You see, the law of nature is that the things you don't take care of tend to get worse. Unattended circumstances tend towards failure most of the time. For example, if you don't brush your teeth, you'll probably get cavities. If you don't study for an exam, you'll probably fail. If you don't show up to work enough, you'll probably get fired. You get where I'm going with this. And if you don't move enough, you'll probably stay exactly where you are. My fire team was no closer to getting out of the forest. We shut off, we grew increasingly dysfunctional. Now, a few of us got up and began to scope around, but not everyone followed suit. We lost time and we lost focus. But then it got darker, and it got colder, and it got scarier. Soon our supplies began to dwindle, we became hungrier, and we barely had hours to get out. And what set us in motion, finally, what got us out of our state of procrastination, were the unmistakable howls of wolves, coyotes, and God knows what else. Pennywise the dancing clown, for all we knew. Our fire team began to march in the darkness with a sense of urgency. Not only did we not want to stay where we were, but we were desperately wanting to move forward. Suddenly, the destination, the end goal of what we were supposed to do became crystal clear. My most vivid recollection of this entire night was hearing the crunch of twigs and leaves beneath my boots, a mist of fog blanketing the forest floor. But also, from time to time, 4-legged, sometimes 8 or 16-legged scurrying behind me. From time to time, I'd grit my teeth, I'd clench my shoulders and ball my fists and whip around with my flashlight, only to see unmistakable tails darting into the forest. We were being followed. I couldn't stop moving. I did not want to stop moving. In hindsight, something powerful happened that night. Everyone on that fire team had reached a level of productivity and peak performance that only comes when circumstances and challenge and difficulty is just right. This is our second framework, my friends, the Yerkes-Dodson law, sometimes known as the Yerkes-Dodson principle as well. It is a principle that demonstrates the relationship between challenge and performance. If your level of challenge is too low, then your performance is just as low. But if your challenge of performance is too high, then consequently, your level of performance is just as low. Basically, too little challenge, bad. Too much challenge, bad. But when the challenge is just right, when the amount of difficulty is just right, people tend to step up. People rise. They reach the optimum level of performance. That night, we dug deep and we summoned the will to get out. The fear of being stranded in the forest, mixed with the desire to get back to our base, unlocked peak performance. I'm going to pause the story and turn this over to you for a second. I want you to reflect on something. When was the last time that you felt overwhelmed because of school or work or life? When was the last time you felt overwhelmed and defeated by stress? Do you remember the year? Do you remember the month, perhaps even the specific date when you realized that you were absolutely spent? When was the last time you felt so mentally, physically, and emotionally drained that it affected your ability to perform? Head over to pollevy.com/HamzaKhan152 and let me know. Because I understand that transitioning to this new normal, we've been in this for almost a year now, has been full on and nonstop since the start of the pandemic. And that for many of you, it's been feeling like you've been dealing with an endless wave of reactivity and emergency since March of 2020. Know that you're not alone. Almost every single person I've talked to across every organization, high schools, post-secondary institutions, businesses, startups, Fortune 500s, everybody has been feeling the burn. In fact, most people reported feeling burned out within the past 3 months of me asking them this question. Every organization in 2020 has been feeling the burn. And I look at that and I'm not surprised. I'm disheartened, but I'm not surprised because this is happening seemingly universally. And know that you're not alone. We're in the middle of a full-blown stress crisis. In fact, the World Health Organization themselves have called stress the health epidemic of the 21st century, as if coronavirus wasn't scary enough. At a glance, the top 3 health issues on campuses across North America are stress, anxiety, and depression. Every 3 out of 4 students reported feeling stressed. 40% of students indicated that they feel so depressed that it's difficult for them to function. And 61% of students said they feel overwhelming anxiety. Do you want to know what's terrifying? These stats were collected before the pandemic. We're far from okay. Now, before we flip this conversation, because we have to flip this conversation, I'm not going to leave you here scared and afraid. I'm going to make sure that we get some tools and some insights and resources to move forward. But before we do that, let me assure you, and I'm talking to anybody over here right now who feels hopeless, it's okay to not be okay. I'm going to say that one more time. Before I offer any resilience advice, let me repeat, it is okay to not be okay. You've heard this a lot during the pandemic, but it's worth repeating. These are unprecedented times. It would be an understatement, a gross understatement, to say that we're all experiencing higher than usual levels of stress. I mean, frankly, I'm amazed that we're productive at all. Burnout is happening all around us, but hang in there, like I said. I promise you, we're going to get through this. All of this at last brings us to a gamble. As students of Sask Polytech, you want to graduate successfully. You want to do well in your program. You want to be career ready, and you want to transition from school to work seamlessly. I get it. I was the same way, as are many students, almost all students across this great country. You know deep down that success requires effort. You can't phone it in. You actually have to do the work. But you've also accepted that effort induces stress. You know this better than anyone else. It's hard to do what you do. But stress, my friends, doesn't have to lead to burnout. There's a lot about our world right now that we can't control. But that third variable is just that. It's a variable. It's something that we have the power to change, whether you feel like it or not. So what's the solution? It's an ancient one. It's the same one that helped every human before us to traverse our own hero's journey. Resilience, the ability to adapt to and withstand stress, especially in the face of adversity. Resilience is the key to reducing the impact of stress in our lives, but it's also a muscle that needs to be trained. And we can train it by willingly engaging with difficult things during times of relative peace, when we're in the ordinary world in the hero's journey, by intentionally increasing the levels of difficulty in our lives as a way to prepare ourselves for unexpected stress in the future. It's an idea rooted in the Greek concept of hormesis, which describes how taking small, controlled doses of a otherwise deadly toxin can actually, over time, build up our tolerance and ultimately resistance to that very same toxin in full. Build resistance today for resilience tomorrow. That's the idea. Build resistance today for resilience tomorrow. When you really think about it, resilience is about sustaining productivity and success over time. And that is what is at the heart of today's message. Consistency over intensity. Progress over perfection, especially in the middle of a volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous set of external stressors. Or more succinctly put, working harder, not smarter. Working intentionally and not recklessly. You see, I've had my fair share of stressful burnout and near burnout experiences. When the likelihood of stress in my life was high and the impact of stress in my life was also high, I was at high risk of burnout. Resilience got me through the depression and confusion of my parents' bitter separation in 2005. Resilience got me through the literal heartbreak of my failed engagement in 2007. Resilience got me through total occupational burnout early in my career in 2014. Resilience got me through sleepless nights of tears and of sadness when my business was about to fail. And resilience is enabling me to put aside my existential dread and be here with all of you today in the middle of a global pandemic, just as you are here with me. Each time I clawed back out of my slumps, it was with the help of one thing. You got it, resilience. I have it, you have it, we all have it. And I believe that it is the closest thing that we human beings have to a superpower. And if you build it up enough, every journey through chaos becomes easier and easier. Now, what I'd like to share with you now, Sask Polytech, is the culmination of years of tinkering with a productivity system that oscillates between two phases, recovery and growth. It's a model being used by tens of thousands of people around the world, from youth and early talent just like yourself to modern leaders and even seasoned executives, including at some of the organizations that I mentioned at the start of this presentation. And I'm going to walk you through it over our last couple of minutes together. So, what is step one? If you're experiencing burnout, right away, you're going to have to deload your priorities. Not download them, but deload them. Get rid of them, make them smaller. Diminish the priorities that are immediate sources of stress. In the beginning, my fire team was overwhelmed by possibilities. Do we go north? Do we go south? Do we go east? Do we go west? Do we start moving now, later? Who's in charge, et cetera, et cetera? Our choices became very clear once we separated urgency from importance. And in the words of former US President Dwight D. Eisenhower, what's important is seldom urgent, and what's urgent is seldom important. They're not the same thing. If it's not urgent and not important, don't do it. Like starting a new show that, what is my partner watching? New Amsterdam on Netflix. When you have an assignment due in a week, it's not wise to start that. But if it's not urgent and important, decide when to do it. Put it in your calendar. Assign a deadline, assign some milestones. Now let's say something is urgent but not important. See if you can get someone to help you out, maybe a classmate or group member who can step up. And if it's urgent and important, do it. Next, you want to reconfigure focus. When going through burnout, when stressed and overwhelmed, we lose sight of what's truly important. Our priorities begin to manage us and not the other way around. My fire team needed to find its bearings and chart the path forward. We needed to find our North Star. Do this by finding out what your North Star is. My favorite way to reconnect with my why is by using the Japanese model that you see on your screen, the Ikigai model. It's about finding the overlap between four distinct things: what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. Now, a way that you can kickstart this self-discovery process is by writing out your Lifetime Achievement Award speech. Imagine what you want people to say about you when you are at the end of your career. Go ahead, write it out, and then come back to it later with a highlighter and select words or phrases that stand out to you. Between these actions, you're going to be able to refocus on where you need to go, where you want to go. Next, it's time to prevent yourself from relapsing into patterns of exertion that led you to burnout in the first place. This is critical now more than ever, at a time when boundaries between work, between school, and between your home have disappeared. Another productivity principle I want to share with you is Hofstadter's Law, which explains why human beings are terrible at estimating anything time-based. It always takes longer than expected, even taking into account Hofstadter's Law. We can override this with something known as the DASH method. Decide how exactly a project at hand is going to end before you start it. Will it be time-based? Will it be unit-based, energy-based, results-based, or feelings-based? For example, if you're putting together a report, okay, let's use that as an example. You're putting together a report. How are you going to know when to stop working on it? Well, decide in advance. If it's time-based, are you going to stop working at 5 p.m.? If it's unit-based, will you stop after you've written, let's say, 2 pages? If it's energy-based, will you stop working on it when you're exhausted? If it's results-based, will you stop working on it when the entire document is done? And if it's feelings-based, will you stop working on it when you feel like it? Decide how work is going to end before you start it. This way you activate what is known as Parkinson's law, the idea that work expands so as to fill the time allocated for its completion. Basically, if you give yourself 2 weeks to get something done, it'll take 2 weeks. But if you give yourself 2 days to get it done, watch as your time, energy, and attention reconfigures and transforms to meet the challenge at hand. Simulate constraints, my friends, and get creative. Feel free to combine 2 or more of these dashes together to unlock peak productivity. Next, gain mastery of stress. My fire team and I in that forest, we needed to make a mental shift in order to sustain momentum. Frazie's law is a productivity principle which states that an hour is not always equal to an hour. Not all hours are made the same. It highlights that time has a bit of a subjective dimension to it that varies according to your interest in the task at hand. So when you do a task, when you're working on something that you're passionate about, time passes by very quickly. On the other hand, if you don't like what you're doing, if you're not interested, if you're not intrinsically motivated, that same amount of time will feel like a lot longer. Basically, you want to take advantage of Frazie's law by reframing stress in order to increase your productivity and retain energy. To that end, know that there is a big difference between good stress and bad stress. Not all stress is created equal. Eustress is the stress that is healthful, that gives feelings of fulfillment, like the stress of planning an event such as this one. And then there's distress, stress that causes pain, suffering, and trouble and danger, like the stress of, will my elderly family member get COVID and will they be able to survive? Instead of the first definition of stress, try the second one. When you're faced with a stressful situation, ask yourself, is this good stress or is this bad stress? Simply reframing a situation as one that produces good stress is enough to change your physical reaction to the stressor. Then overcome overachievement. My fire team gave up on the pressure to be the first team out of the forest, and instead, we took a relatively calm and focused approach to getting out. Illick's law is an essential law for anyone who wants to achieve maximum productivity. It highlights the fact that productivity tends to decrease or even reach negative values over time. This clearly means that it is essential to take regular breaks during the workday, during the school day, in order to maintain optimal productivity. The myth of the student who studies or works for more than 7 hours a day is just that. It's a myth. Take regular breaks to clear your mind. And there's different types of breaks you can take. There's micro breaks, so every 20 to 25 minutes, stand up, move, stretch if you can. Then there's short rest breaks. Just get away from your workspace, get away from your laptop, your tablet, get away from your workstation every 60 to 90 minutes. Then take lunch breaks. Try your best to eat healthy and do what you like during this time. Don't work because that's working and eating, that's working and studying. Do what you want. Don't force yourself to socialize or turn that downtime into uptime. Then evenings and weekends, use them to replenish, and vacations, treat them as a work-free, a school-free reset. The key to achieving more isn't brute force. Powering through things will only lead to massive power outage down the road. Recognize your brain's limited capacity to focus on something, as well as your body's limited capacity to support that level of output. Okay, lastly, nurture resilience. Once you've been through chaos, it's important to make sense of what happened. You can't build up resilience without self-awareness. And so it's critical that you reflect on the difficult changes that you've undergone in order to make meaning and be mentally prepared the next time you face difficulties. If you're not already doing this, please get in the habit of practicing gratitude, journaling, writing out your thoughts, meditating, and reflecting on your experiences. Now, I know that some of you are looking at me right now thinking, Hamza, I have no time to do this. Believe me, I was right there with you. I even thought that some of these practices were silly. But there's my life before I did them, and there's my life after I did them. And I continue to do them, and I can tell you that they are single-handedly some of the best things that I have started doing for my life. Since that experience in the forest, I've become more and more intentional about how I undergo change. Every metaphorical forest, every journey through adversity has become easier and easier. As a regular backwoods camper, I still get lost from time to time, but it's all part of the process. It's just another forest. When I was younger, I fell into deep spells of depression for multiple reasons, whether it was my parents' separation, the failed engagement, and a whole host of other challenges. Now, with the help of therapists and medical professionals, family and friends, I was able to emerge from these spells time and again. Looking back, those spells, as difficult as they were, with the passage of time, feel like forests. A few years ago, the organization Student Life Network that I manage had to restructure itself, and I had to lay off several people. It was painful in the moment, but we helped everybody to move on to other opportunities and have remained in touch ever since. Now, I lost sleep over that whole exercise, but looking back, it was just another forest. To start my hero's journey, each time I took 3 steps. 1, I made my destination matter. 2, I unlocked peak performance. And 3, I faced my fears head on to the best of my ability. The path to change, as we've discussed, is always messy. And when journeying through chaos, you won't always succeed at first. Sometimes you're faced with challenges that you're simply not prepared for, like COVID-19. No one was prepared for this, myself included. These are challenges that take you so far out of your home zone, out of your comfort zone, out of the ordinary world, and plunge you into the extraordinary world, that burnout is inevitable. The adversity brought about by the novel coronavirus is just one example of that. But if you're alive by the end of it, knock on wood, by the graces of the universe, guess what? You're still alive. You're still in the chaos, which means you can still navigate your way out of it. You have one more day, and one after that, and another one, and another one, and another one. The story is not finished. My fire team was the last one out of that forest that night. And I remember emerging to sarcastic applause from other soldiers who had been waiting for hours for us to get out. But by then, their taunts didn't matter, because we made it. I made it. We overcame our obstacles. We succeeded on our own terms. In escaping that forest, what we really escaped was our fear of change. Change is stressful. It's our natural tendency to resist it, to refuse it. But stress is inevitable if you want to get somewhere worth going. It is both a precursor and a test. The next time you feel stressed, ask yourself, what is on the other end of this journey? Is it worth it? How badly do I want to reach my destination? And in the absence of a challenge, it will be wise to simulate some. Sask Polytech, I believe that you can get through whatever forest you're going through, personal, professional, academic. Prioritize progress over perfection, prioritize calm over chaos, prioritize moving forward. You can't always make the right decision, but you can make a decision and then make it right. I'll say that one more time. You can't always make the right decision, but you can make a decision and then make it right. So step 1, make your destination matter. Step 2, unlock peak performance. And step 3, face your fears head on. Because the things you choose not to face will face you nonetheless. And as you've come to accept, things that are ignored and neglected usually tend to get worse. Remember this framework from the start, the hero's journey, the 12-stage story process? The very natural landscape of our great and beautiful country offers a permanent reminder, from the mountains of the West Coast, through the plains of Saskatchewan itself, to the valleys out east where I am. We're constantly reminded that we are the heroes of our stories, that we are characters in this larger story of life, of existence. Your time in Sask Polytech is a journey. And if you can make it through this, especially in the middle of what we're going through, I believe that you can make it through anything. The sun might be setting, it might be getting colder, everything might seem scarier, and the creatures might be howling. You might be afraid. But Sask Polytech, choose not to fear. Don't fear. Instead, face everything and rise. Sask Polytech, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your attention. Thank you to Lindsay, to Ann, to Phil, Jesse, Brianna, everybody involved in bringing us together, all of you especially, for investing your time, your energy, and your attention into this conference. And thanks to all of our sponsors, especially the title sponsor, Graham. My name is Hamza Khan, and this has been an absolute honor. I'm going to hang back afterwards to answer some questions, but I'm also doing a workshop later today, and I hope to see many of you there. Back over to you.
Well, thanks, Hamza. That was pretty great. We're just opening up the chat right now. We have a few minutes here. And then your workshop is in about what, an hour and 15, I believe? Okay.
Yes, I believe so. And it's called Do Things, Tell People, the Power of Social Media Storytelling. It's a workshop that I don't get to do often, but when I do, I get really, really excited. It's going to be fun. But you should also make sure you're checking out the other concurrent sessions just in case there's a topic that's more relevant to you.
We've got one question here, which was asking, what were the last 3 actions again?
Yep, so if I could just go ahead and share, I've put together a very succinct breakdown. So you can see the 3 frameworks one more time: the hero's journey, the Yerkes-Dodson law, and the dragon method. The 9 actions were reduce reactivity, fix your compass, know when to stop working, anticipate stress, take breaks or be broken, and cultivate self-awareness. The 3 steps to answer your question were make your destination matter, unlock peak performance, and face your fears head on. And if I can add something to the make your destination matter, if you're not motivated enough by the destination, fixate then on the circumstances that you're trying to escape. Both are powerful propellants, what you want to get away from and what you want to move towards. And I think sometimes establishing both can really help. Great question.
Okay, we've got someone asking for how to register for the workshop. So Jasmine, I'll reach out to you privately about that. Some of them are full now because it was just such high uptake on that. So that one I'll follow up separately. The recording as is right now, we were streaming it live on YouTube, and I imagine it'll be there for some time. We can include that information in the email messages that go out.
And I'd be more than happy to share the slides afterwards as well to anyone who's interested.
Fantastic. Okay, can we see the mountain slide again?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad that people are into these slides. There we go.
Okay, great.
The point of this, remember folks, is to go from your ordinary world back through the extraordinary world. But you have to return with that last bit over there on the right-hand side of your screen, the elixir. And the elixir represents wisdom, knowledge. It represents new skills and perspectives. You go back to where you started, but you're wiser, you're smarter, you're more capable, you're more confident. And that is the point. And that's what all of you are getting right now through multiple levels. You're getting that through your education at Sask Polytech. You're getting that through your work placements. You're getting that through just being alive between 2020 and 2021. I think you're going to come away with a triple elixir, if you will. Sorry, Lindsay.
No, it's all good. My fingers are flying. So what is one thing you do every day that keeps you grounded? I was actually this morning, I meant to ask you if you have like a pre-presentation ritual that gets you kind of ready for the day. And that's really closely attached to what's something you do to keep you grounded. So I'd be really interested to hear that.
How much time do we have? I've been waiting to be asked this question. I nerd out very hard about my ritual.
If you really want to take it, there's a few other questions. So maybe take
I'll keep this one quick then. Gotcha. I'll keep this one quick. So you would never guess it. If this is our first time meeting, you would think that full of energy and I'm an extrovert and I'm very comfortable in these settings, but I'm not. I'm the total opposite. I am a introvert to a fault. I think that once these 2 back-to-back sessions are done, you're going to see me curled up on the couch watching something on TV and not talking for the rest of the day. That's how much energy goes into this. And so in order to show up and be the Hamza Khan that you experienced, that you will experience, the day has to start early for me, and it has to be slow and it has to be quiet. And so I need that mental space. I need to find my center. And what helps me with that is, I'm rediscovering the energy in the universe. I'm rediscovering my spirituality and trying to find my center. And so that involves meditating in the morning. That involves practicing gratitude and writing out 3 things that I'm grateful for, just as a way to rewire my brain to stop fixating on the negative and start focusing on the positive. I make sure that I get plenty of sleep, that I use the mornings to sort of just be alone and think and allow my mind to become still. And then in preparation, in the lead up to an event like this, that includes eating well, that includes staying positive and listening to some music in the lead up and not checking my emails, not doing any work, and making sure that my first expenditure of energy really comes out in the way that you just experienced right now. So long story short, slow mornings, quiet mornings reconnecting with the universe and reconnecting with myself so that when I show up, I'm present. Thank you for asking.
And Kendra, it sounds like, wants to give some guidance about signing up for the workshop. And I think she's...
Fantastic. Thank you, Kendra.
Yeah, if you come on...
I'm just typing some information into the chat right now.
Thank you for that. And okay, so with about 10 minutes left, we've got kind of like two kind of burning questions. And one is general advice on dealing with the pandemic and whether or not it's okay to have tantrums. And then the other question is the best career advice you've ever gotten. So I'll let you pick if you want to go for both or go for one. And I think that'll pretty much be our last bit until the workshop.
So I can give you a very current example. Just before this talk, I was in the green room, and Lindsay and I and everyone who was there, we jumped into a really heavy conversation. We didn't talk about anything else. We didn't talk about the weather, and we didn't talk about what's happening in the world of media and entertainment. We went right into our feelings about not being okay. And I think for the longest time during this pandemic, I indulged in I'm learning to be now toxic positivity. And toxic positivity is lying to yourself essentially about how good things are compared to other people. Your feelings are valid, regardless of what it is that you're going through. If you're not feeling okay, there's real power to acknowledging that. Part of my healing process as somebody that has been dealing with medical issues in my family, the recent passing of someone very close to me, and just the stress of being alive and the uncertainty has required me, when people ask me, how are you doing, to not lie and say, I'm doing great, I'm good, I'm thriving. Because that's just masking the problem. Instead, the answer is, I'm okay. I'm having a tough day. It's taken me a while to get through this. There's real power in acknowledging where you are in the moment, even if that is rock bottom. And as somebody who has been at rock bottom many times, let me tell you, it is a solid foundation upon which you can rebuild, but you have to get real about it. So it is okay to throw tantrums. It is okay to cry. It is okay to feel despair during this time. I have done all 3. I have done some of them quite recently, in fact, but that is part of the journey. That is part of stage 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, when you're experiencing adversity and failure and setbacks and challenges. But acknowledging where you are, taking stock of it, will allow you to then move into the next stages with intention. Now, that's the first question. The second question, Lindsay, was, what is the best career advice I've ever received? I think I've shared that with you already. I've shared that with you already. My career has been the result of several iterations. My first job out of school, out of post-secondary, was not the best job. I think there was like 99% of that job I absolutely hated, and 1% of that job I loved. Take that in, right? Most of that job I hated, 1% I loved. The next job, the next opportunity that I took, the ratio got smaller. It had less of what I liked, less of what I didn't like in the previous job and more of what I liked. Suddenly the ratio was 98% hate, 2% love. 97% hate, 3% love. It was a gradual process to get here. It was a messy process. And so the best advice that I got, one that has continued to guide my career success, but even my personal success, is you can't always make the right decision. Now is not the time to prioritize perfection. If you are right now in Sask Polytech trying your best to land the perfect opportunity, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. It is such a confusing time right now. I mean, I'm not sure what's going to happen to the economy. I'm not sure how the world is going to play out. What you want to do is prioritize progress over perfection. You can't always make the right decision, but you can make a decision and then make it right. So prioritize progress over perfection. Perfection's overrated. Take it from somebody that was a overachiever, somebody that was a perfectionist. What is that saying from LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman? If the first version of what it is that you're doing, if you're not horribly embarrassed by the first thing that you do, you've waited too long. So just start. Get to 70% and just take the leap.
Okay, you did that a little faster than I thought you could. So do you want to take one more question?
Yeah, absolutely. Could I take Jesse's question as well? I saw Jesse ask.
Yeah, I saw that one, and I'm like, we have to do that at the end. So
okay,
yeah,
fine. We'll save that one, Jesse. I got 5 for you, but let's do another question, Lindsay. Thank you.
Sure. If you only had 5 minutes to de-stress and move on, how would you do it?
Breathing exercises. I would sit down and I would feel my breath. I would feel the breath enter my body. I would feel the breath leave my body. I would do that in 5 minutes, and I would count those breaths slowly. I would inhale slowly and exhale slowly. That for me, about focusing on your breath, is a way to drown out all the noise, to drown out all the distractions, and to reconnect and center yourself as a human being. If that was all I could do in 5 seconds or 5 minutes, that would be my recommendation. Focus on your breathing. It's a way to quickly and easily and powerfully reconnect with this.
Okay. Do you mind stopping presenting? We can see your.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Your big face. There we go. That's so great. That's what the people were all waiting for. They're like, give us more Hamza.
I'm here.
So we've got 4 minutes.
Okay.
There is one question.
I'm loving these questions, by the way.
Yeah, like there's really good ones, and it's hard to not, like, it's hard to pick and choose. I feel like I'm like Rosemary's Choice here. Or what is it, anyways, Sophie's Choice. The most challenging thing you've had to face during the pandemic. Do you think you can do that in 3 minutes and leave a minute for?
I certainly can. The most challenging thing I had to face in the pandemic was my father, overwhelmed by stress and anxiety, had a near fatal seizure at the beginning of the pandemic. And thank God I was with them during those early days. I decided to go and visit them and check in on them. And it happened in the middle of the night while my father and I were downstairs. My mother was upstairs sleeping. I heard a thud on the floor and the clink of a glass in the kitchen. And I woke up and I darted there and I saw my father just on the floor, like I've never seen him before. The blood drained from his body, his eyes fixated on the ceiling, shaking. And my life flashed before my eyes, and I have yet to fully process it. What happened? I mean, thank God he's safe. Thank God it was not a stroke or anything that's long lasting and debilitating, but he's doing okay now. I would say he's doing better than okay. He's in such positive spirits. He's such an optimist. He has such a zest for life. But those early days of the pandemic were so stressful. You remember them, right? Everybody thought that the world was going to end, and we were so confused about what this virus meant. And it's been tough for me as his son, as a son, to worry about myself, to worry about my partner, to worry about, everyone that I have the good fortune of speaking with and interacting with. But at the back of my mind, there's also this looming fear that I have to do whatever I can to make sure my father, my mother, my family, everybody in my circle is able to transition out of this. So the hardest thing for me to do during this time as an empath is take on everybody else's stress, take on everybody else's emotions, but also make sure that I don't burn out in the process, that I have enough capacity to do so.
Okay, so you get about 90 seconds to go real fangirl about Jesse's question.
Okay, Jesse, I got some bangers for you. I got Karibo, I've got Blue Eyes White Dragon, I've got Seven Tools, I've got Gren Maju de Isa, and I know this is more than 5, but Exodia. Those are the 5. I'm a little old school over there, but I think that combination right there, Mage Power. You know what? If you're not going to give me Exodia, we'll do Mage Power. So those are my 5, and always I would love to do a virtual duel if you'd be down. Dark Magician, yes. Good one. Good one.
We're coming on
Sask
time.
Polytech.
I just want to say thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you to everyone over here. And I hope to see many of you again in the workshop. And if not, let's please connect on social media. You can email me. Nothing would make me happier than to continue supporting your journey for as long as you need me.
And we'll see everybody in about an hour for the next workshop. Have a great conference, everyone.
Take care.
Saskatchewan Polytechnic.